She went from being an underdog from Tokyo to walking away not once, but twice with the gold. Back-to-back bracelets. A runner-up finish before that. A run so dominant it has people questioning history itself. So how did Shina Akamoto, a player with no big sponsorships and no flashy headlines, suddenly rise from relative obscurity to sit at the top of women's poker? After her phenomenal victory at the 2025 Ladies WSOP, it's time to ask the question, is Shina Akamoto the greatest female player of all time? Let's find out. The 2025 World Series of Poker had plenty of big stories, but nothing came close to what happened in the Ladies Championship. 3 days in Vegas, over 1,300 entries. And when the last hand was revealed, it was Shina Akamoto stacking the final part. Not just another deep run, not another highlight finish. She was champion again. Back-to-back titles, 2 bracelets in 2 years. That's not a hot streak, that's history. Most players spend their whole careers chasing 1 bracelet. Shiina now has 2. If we rewind just a little, she almost had 3. In 2023, she came within 1 spot of the title, finishing runner-up in the exact same event. 3 consecutive years at the top of one of the toughest fields for women in poker. That's not coincidence. That's sustained dominance in an era where consistency is almost impossible. The final table in 2025 was the perfect show of what makes her different. She didn't storm in with the chip lead. She worked her way up, hand by hand, never rushing, never panicking. When others stalled, she moved with quiet certainty. Decisions that froze opponents for minutes, she answered in seconds. Calm, direct, precise. By the time she reached heads up, the gap was wide. And when her opponent shoved straight into her top pair, there was no hesitation. 1 call, cards on their backs, and another bracelet slid across the table. What made it so impressive wasn't just the win, but the way she built it. Starting day 3 with a middle stack, she picked her moments, avoided needless flips, and used position like a weapon. She didn't gamble for glory. She squeezed value out of every spot. It felt less like running good and more like watching someone write the ending to their own story. And it's not the first time she's done it. In 2024, things looked eerily similar. A massive field, a marathon grind, and Shiina cutting through it like she'd been there 100 times before. That was the win that made the poker world take notice. She wasn't just surviving deep into the tournament, she was controlling it. Her reads were sharp, her bluffs landed exactly when they needed to. When the chips went in, she showed up with the right hand again and again. That bracelet ceremony felt like a turning point, a moment where women's poker had a new face to rally behind. What makes the 2025 win so wild is the path that got her there. 3 years earlier in 2023, Shiina had already put the poker world on notice. She fought her way to heads up in the Ladies Championship and came within inches of the bracelet. For almost anyone else, second place in a WSOP event would be the story they tell for the rest of their life. For Shiina, it was just the beginning. She left that stage not satisfied, but hungry. That close call became fuel. When she came back, you could see the work she'd put in written all over her game. Because here's the thing, this isn't destiny. Cards don't fall into place because the poker gods want them to. Back-to-back titles, plus a runner-up before that, come from discipline. Shiina has something most players don't, the ability to absorb bad beats without unraveling. In 2025, she took brutal rivers, lost flips, watched bluffs get picked off, and still never cracked. Lesser players tilt, chase, or force spots. She tightened up, recalibrated, and kept moving. That calm under fire is as dangerous as any solver output. And this kind of composure doesn't appear overnight. Shina's roots are far from the bright lights of Vegas. Born in Japan, she didn't grow up in a poker capital. She built her game in the shadows, online, in smaller rooms, in spots where no cameras were watching. Early write-ups called her analytical, even mathematical. But she wasn't just crunching numbers. She studied people, the way they reached for chips, how long they stared at the board, pauses between bets. That mix, technical edge plus human reads, separated her from the start. By the time she hit the bigger circuits, players already hated seeing her sit down on their left. She had that rare ability to pressure without overplaying, to balance solver-approved lines with gut-driven deviations. And unlike many who try to carve a reputation with flashy hero calls or crazy bluffs, Shiina stayed grounded. She didn't play for the cameras, she played for the win. That's what makes her so dangerous. She's not chasing moments, she's building tournaments brick by brick. And now, after her second bracelet, the impact is echoing well beyond her chip stacks. When she raised that gold again in 2025, social media exploded. Female pros congratulated her, fans shared clips, casual players called her an inspiration. Because the Ladies' Championship isn't just another WSOP event, it's a statement. And for someone to dominate it 2 years running after nearly winning the year before, forces everyone to rethink the conversation around women in poker. That's why her name is already being whispered alongside legends. Vanessa Selbst built her reputation on fearlessness and open field dominance. Kristen Foxen made her mark with precision and consistency. But Shiina's carving out her own lane, the face of the modern Ladies' Championship. Just like Phil Hellmuth became synonymous with the main event, Okamoto's results are tying her name to this stage. And when she was asked after her second win what drove her, her answer wasn't about the money or the fame. She said she wanted to prove consistency wasn't a myth, that women could control their own championship just like men control the high roller circuits. That's humility, but it's also ambition. She isn't chasing a couple of trophies, she's chasing a legacy. And the scary part? It feels within reach. In today's WSOP, variance is brutal. Thousands of players, all studying, all prepared. Back-to-back wins in that environment are nearly impossible. Yet here she is, doing exactly that. That run alone sets her apart, and if she keeps building, we might be watching the foundation of a career that reshapes the debate about who belongs at the very top of women's poker. And the secret to all of this lies in how she actually plays the game. Because Shiina isn't just another hyper-aggressive crusher or overly tight grinder. She blends styles. One hand, she's 3-betting light, leaning on someone's hesitation. The next, she's flatting monsters, baiting traps. She never stays in one gear, never lets opponents get comfortable. Her balance makes her range a nightmare to untangle. And that's why, when the final pots are pushed, it's her stacking the chips. At the 2025 final table, what stood out wasn't just the cards Shiina played, but the way she played them. Her timing was razor sharp. She caught the little things, hesitations before a bet, the rhythm of a chip shuffle, the quick glance at a stack size before a shove. Solvers can teach you the math, but they can't teach you how to read a room. Shiina blends both, theory and instinct. That's what makes her so hard to beat. Then there's her presence. Across 2 straight wins, not once did she look shaken. Cameras caught her laughing with players, keeping the mood light, even while she was dismantling them hand by hand. That easy smile is part of the trap. Opponents relax, they underestimate her. By the time they realize they're in trouble, it's already too late. Her table presence isn't just charm, it's a weapon. The scariest part? She's still improving. In 2022, you could see flashes of brilliance, but also a few spots where she left chips on the table. By 2024, those leaks were gone. By 2025, she was closing out late stages like a pro who'd been there for decades. If that upward curve keeps going, we haven't even seen the best version of Shina Akamoto yet. Which brings up the obvious question, what's next? Winning back-to-back Ladies' Championships is already a historic run, but can she take that dominance into the bigger open field events? That's where names like Vanessa Selbst and Kristen Foxen come into focus. Selbst built a reputation by crushing major open tournaments. Foxen's carved out a career on precision and adaptability. So far, Shina's resume centered on the ladies' event, but given her track record, betting against her expanding beyond it feels like a mistake. To understand why her run matters, you have to see her in the context of women who came before. The Ladies' Championship has always been more than just a side event. It's where women got to step out from a male-heavy field and prove themselves on their own stage. Legends were born there. Barbara Enright was the first woman to make the main event final table back in 1995, at a time when women in poker were often dismissed before they even sat down. She has 3 bracelets, one of them from the Ladies' Championship, and for years she was the standard. Then came Susie Isaacs, who broke new ground by winning back-to-back ladies titles in 1996 and 1997, the first ever to do it. That kind of consistency set the bar for what domination in the event looked like. And then there's Vanessa Selbst, who sits in a category of her own. 3 WSOP bracelets, nearly $12 million in live tournament earnings, and a fearless style that made her one of the best players in the world, full stop. She stepped away from the game earlier than most, but her influence is still felt because she showed that women could win anywhere, at any level, against anyone. So where does Shina Akamoto sit in this mix? She doesn't yet have Selbst's career earnings or Enright's deep main event run, but what she does have is something almost no one else can claim. Pure dominance in the modern Ladies' Championship, 2nd place in 2022, 1st in 2024, 1st again in 2025. 3 consecutive finals, 2 straight wins in one of the toughest tournaments to win twice, let alone back-to-back. That level of consistency is almost unheard of in the modern WSOP era. And the fields she's beating? They're not the same as those in Isaac's day. Today's fields are bigger, sharper, more prepared. Women entering the ladies' event now are studying solvers, drilling hand histories, running simulations. They're grinders, online crushers, rising stars treating poker like a career, not just a weekend hobby. Shiina isn't just pushing past casuals. She's outplaying some of the most technically trained players of this generation. That's why her victories carry so much weight. Even outside the WSOP spotlight, Shina's game holds up. What sets her apart is adaptability. Susie Isaacs built her reputation on patience, tight ranges, letting others trip over themselves. Shiina flips that script. When she senses weakness, she applies pressure. Not reckless, not careless, controlled aggression. One orbit, she's folding every marginal spot. The next, she's blasting a bluff through the table. That gear shift keeps opponents guessing, and it's the mark of a player at the very top. Her approach draws comparisons to Vanessa Selbst, but with a key difference. Selbst was raw aggression, often overwhelming her opponents with sheer volume. Shina's edge is more surgical. She doesn't bulldoze, she waits, she studies. When the moment cracks open, she strikes. That combination of patience and precision makes her unpredictable. Is she holding aces, or is she turning air into a story? You don't know until the chips are already moving her way. There's also the cultural weight behind her success. Enright, Isaacs, Selbst, all American. Shiina represents Japan, a country where poker's still carving out space, especially for women. By winning the most visible women's event in the world, she's not just stacking bracelets. She's widening the door for players back home who might never have even imagined a seat at that stage. The way Selbst inspired women across the US, Shiina could spark the same wave in Asia. And when you step back, her record speaks louder than hype. 2 straight ladies event titles, a runner-up finish before that, 3 years, 3 podiums. Runs like that don't happen in modern poker. The fields are massive and the edges razor thin. No one's done this in decades. Which brings up the real question, how do we even define the greatest female poker player? If you're counting lifetime earnings and major open field wins, Vanessa Selbst still sits on top. If you're talking longevity and trailblazing moments, Barbara Enright is unmatched. But if the measure is dominance in the WSOP ladies event, then Shina's case grows stronger every summer. Scary part, she's still just getting started. So how does her streak fit into the bigger picture? To answer that, you've got to look at the ladies event itself. The WSOP introduced it back in 1977, when poker rooms were even less welcoming to women than they are today. The event wasn't about splitting the field, it was about creating a space where women could play without the sneers and intimidation that defined Vegas in that era. What started small grew into something bigger. Over the years, it became less of a novelty and more of a statement. The buy-in was technically $10,000, but the WSOP discounted it to $1,000 for women, which kept it exclusive and symbolic. Winning it meant something. It meant you stood at the top of a field that represented every corner of the poker world. Pros, grinders, casual players, even celebrities. If you were serious about poker and you were a woman, you wanted that bracelet. That's why Shina's run matters so much. Multiple ladies event titles are rare. Susie Isaacs went back-to-back in '96 and '97. Nani Dollison won 3. Vanessa Selbst didn't chase this tournament, but proved dominance elsewhere with 3 bracelets and $11 million in winnings. Shina's back-to-back victories, plus that earlier runner-up, put her right alongside those names. And timing matters. She's not doing this in the '90s or early 2000s, when the average skill level was lower and solvers didn't exist. She's doing it now, when everyone studies ranges, when online training sharpens even casual players, when fields regularly top 1,000 entries. You can't stumble into consistency like this. Her edge is repeatable skill, not variance. Some people dismiss the ladies event as softer than open fields, but anyone watching knows better. The structure is deep, the pressure relentless, and the fields filled with serious players who put in the work. Shiina winning it twice in a row proves she thrives in that environment. Stack her next to the legends and the parallels stand out. Isaacs had her back-to-back. Dollison had her triple. Enright became the face of women's poker after her historic main event run. Selbst blew open the ceiling in open fields. Kristen Foxen's built a reputation on consistency and volume. Shiina, right now, stands at the crossroads of all of them. Like Isaacs, she owns the back-to-back. Like Enright, she's raising visibility. Like Selbst and Foxen, she's proving herself in an era defined by solvers and sharper edges. The difference? She's still early in the story. So what comes next? That's the question hanging in the air. Does Shiina keep stacking bracelets in the ladies event, chasing the records of Isaacs and Dollison? Or does she step into the bigger arena and test herself against the toughest open fields in the world? Her game suggests she can do both. The only barrier is access, the buy-ins, the backing, the opportunities. For years, the ladies event has been a launch pad. Win it and suddenly doors open. Sponsors notice, investors line up. If Shiina uses her back-to-back run as leverage, the leap to high-profile events is right there. And think about what that would mean. Poker's starving for new stars, competing against esports, streaming, every form of instant entertainment. You need faces and stories, not just chip stacks. A young Japanese player who has already made WSOP history? That's a story fans can connect to. That's a player people can root for. There's also the global angle. The ladies event has long been dominated by Americans. Shiina changes that. Her wins send a signal. This stage belongs to everyone. If she keeps winning, she could trigger something bigger. A surge of women from Asia who see a path forward in the game because of her. So is she already the greatest female poker player of all time? It depends on how you define it. If the crown belongs to the one with the biggest bankroll, the most trophies, the wildest resume, then that debate is still open. But if it's about who's rewriting the story right now, who's changing the conversation and inspiring people beyond the table, then Shiina's already there. Poker is a game of eras, defined by moments and names. Right now, this is Shina Akamoto's era. The only thing left to find out is just how far she can take it. So, is Shina Akamoto already staking her claim as the greatest female player the game has ever seen? Tell us what you think down in the comments. You don't walk away when the cards are still hot. This run is just getting started. If you thought this chapter was historic, wait until you see what's coming Wednesday and Friday. Make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the next hand.